Hey guys, welcome back to the Little Blue Journal. I hope you guys enjoyed my last story that I put up, and it was really fierce and it was like a really powerful story for, women empowerment. And like I said last time, guys, I wanted to go through a quick overview on, the Hindu religion and the myths and stuff, and just like dissect into that and give you guys a bit more background, because a lot of you guys may not know like the origin of the stories. So let's get into it. So obviously the Hindu religion is the oldest religion, and its origin can be traced back to the prehistoric time around 5000 to 10,000 BC. So much of the interesting myths, beliefs and mythology surrounding religion are as old. In fact, given the millennia-old timeline, many of these mythologies might have gone through a number of retelling at different ages. The Hindu mythology has rich history, enigmatic characters, resounding stories, and a surprisingly innate association with modern science. There are cyclic periods of time that kept on repeating themselves after a certain interval. There are also epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana, the earliest being the longest known epic in human history. Following the suit, here's a list of 10 interesting facts about Hindu mythology. Satyayug. So this is basically a period that they are explaining, and it's the 4 cycles that Hinduism believes the world goes through. So obviously, let's go into it. So the Hindu mythology clearly states that all living beings pass through a continuous cycle of creation and destruction. This cycle reiterates itself in 4 different epochs or yugas. The first of these yugas is the Satya Yuga, which expands over a period of 1,728,000 years. The Satya Yuga is said to be the golden age of truth and enlightenment. In this age, people have attained an ideal state of mind, and their actions are always reasoned and virtuous. The sacred texts further state that there was a surplus flow of ideas and thoughts between people. Everyone led an honest life and completely adhered to the truth. Everyone had acquainted the answer to the ultimate question, the origin of everything. And since there was virtually nothing to conceal, even the tiniest thread of thought was accessible to everyone, without any verbal communication. The human physiology also significantly differed from the one that we exhibit today. People used to be around 21 cubits, 31.5 feet tall. They also had a lifespan that stretched over hundreds and thousands of years. Treta Yuga. This represents the second age in the middle cycle of Mahayuga. The Hindu scripts state that the Treta Yuga spans over a period of 1,296,000 human years. By the event of Treta Yuga, the presence of sattva, goodness, in human nature had slowly started to diminish. Whatever amount of goodness they retained in their virtue was now accompanied by ever-increasing amount of tamas and rajas. Tamas represented the darkness in human nature, and rajas constituted all the passion a human could conjure. By now, people had nurtured an acute level of intellect, but they also had a good deal of control over their body and its physiology. The body structure was now lesser than that in the Satya Yuga. An average human was around 14 cubits tall, but there were also some exceptional beings who had attained godly build and divine persona. To name some, the likes of Rama, Lakshmana, Ravana, and Hanumana were considered godlike for their extraordinary strength and inimitable intellect. Dwapar Yuga. The Dwapar Yuga represents the third age in succession after the Treta Yuga. Also known as the Bronze Age, the Dwapar Yuga is said to last for 864,000 human years. It represents an age where the goodness and evil in human nature are neck and neck. Since the human body loses a substantial amount of purity, sattva, people attain a far greater control over their body than their intellect. By the time Dwapar Yuga was at its peak, the man had already lost control over his innermost body and knowledge. He became more attracted to the materialistic perspectives of the world, succumbing to his ever-increasing desires. Only the very intellects like Bhishma Dharmaraja, and Vidura were able to escape this allure. Eventually, there was a gradual decline in the moral fiber of society. People with enormous physicality became increasingly offensive in their thirst of desire and power. The average human lifespan had also come down to about 1,000 years. Kali Yuga. The last age in ever-repeating cycle of Mahayuga is the Kali Yuga. It also happens to have the shortest span that lasts for about 432,000 human years. The current time period falls under the Kali Yuga, also referred to as the Iron Age. As the name already suggests, Kali Yuga witnesses hypocrisy and instability like never before. Human nature is significantly corrupted by the temptations of sin, and only a fickle of conscience remains. The human body is at its lowest terms of physicality and intellect. An average man is only 3.5 cubits tall and lives for about 100 to 120 years. Citing the ancient Hindu scripts, it is estimated that around 5,000 years of Kali Yuga have already passed by. It also predicted that when Kali Yuga reaches its dying years, the lifespan of man will be no more than 20 years. This age has been majorly highlighted by man's unprecedented longing for materialism. In a stark contrast to previous ages, human lives have been convulsed by ignorance, and the connection to one's inner self has been lost. So guys, that was the different stages of the yugas, which is which is the different stages that Hindus view life, and it's actually very accurate if you think about it. You know, they've actually gone down to a pretty good scientific background and breakdown of it. Like, people do only live for about 100 years, and you do see a lot of examples of where they're talking about people becoming too thirsty for desire and power and money, and just materialism's overtaken everything else. That's what's been seen as successful and, you know, righteous right now, to be successful and rich and have lots of things, to be luxurious. And they've forgotten about, you know, spirituality. A lot of it's lost nowadays. So it's a very good, accurate example of what's happening right now. Just as well, the foundation of Hinduism as well, I wanted to go through that with you guys. So Hinduism is quite unlike other traditional religions. It did not originate from a single founder or some sacred scripture, or at a particular point in time. Hinduism is an amalgamation of different beliefs, traditions, and philosophies. These different viewpoints are usually a contradiction with each other. So naturally, there are different theories on the origin of the world's oldest religion. The first mention on its foundation can be traced back to the earliest of the writings of ancient Hindu sages or rishis. But again, even these sacred writings were originally enunciated orally. The earliest traces of practices that resembled Hindu traditions can be tracked back to ancient India, around 5500 BC. It is unclear if the tradition had any specific nomenclature back then. The term Hindu originated only during the Mughal era, in contemporary India. Hinduism became a popular reference only during the 19th to 20th century, when English colonial rule saw rapid expansion in India. Evidence has also showed that an ascetic god named Shiva was popularly worshipped in the Indus Valley civilization, around 3000 BC. The greatest of all epics, Mahabharata, was written somewhere in the period of 400 BC and 200 CE. It gave immense insight into Hindu mythology in the form of Bhagavad Gita, along with other historical crucial texts. So that's a bit of a background on like the origin. Obviously, like you said, there's so many different authors and, you know, beliefs and philosophies that really just make up Hinduism. It's really hard to define, saying that it only came from here or that region or this region, which is like, it's amazing. And a bit of a breakdown of the gods and goddesses, because I've been talking about their stories as well. Hinduism follows a polytheistic tradition, which means worship of multiple deities, and these gods and goddesses usually belong to a certain pantheon of divinities. In fact, citing certain lines in the sacred Hindu scripts, many believe that there are around 330 million gods in the Hindu mythology. Each of these gods and goddesses symbolizes a certain aspect of life. Goddess Saraswati is the source of all knowledge and wisdom. God Brahma is the creator of reality as we know it. In fact, the divine trinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva is seen as the base of the entire Hindu mythology. But the Vedas clearly state that there are about only 33 major deities. The transition into 300 million gods came in the Upanishadic age in an attempt to reflect the infinitude of the universe. Despite such cosmic number of gods and goddesses, Hindus give primary devotion to a single god. All other gods are taken as different avatars, facets of their primary deity. In terms of age, all the primary divinities are as old as time and creation itself. So I think a lot of parts of Hinduism have been misinterpreted because I think that each deity or god or goddesses that are being shown are different at different points. They all count them as different, beings or supernatural beings as well, but it's not true because some of them because they do believe in the afterlife, and some of them believe that these gods and goddesses incarnate themselves and come back in a different period of time, hence why there's a different form that they're showing, or they come back as a different person, but with the same initial characteristics that they had. So obviously, like they said, Hindus worship only one god, but all the other gods are actually facets or different parts of Hinduism, or just different aspects, I guess. So we could even go through a bit of a theory of creation. I'm sure everyone has their own version, every religion has their own version of this, but with Hindu mythology it's a bit different. So the Hindu mythology provides several accounts on how exactly the creation of the universe took place. The answers themselves delve into varying degrees of complexity, since there have been different approaches at separate instances of time. Perhaps the most popular of approach states that the highest of deities were oblivious to their own presence before the existence of time themselves. Before the creation, there was no time, no heaven or earth or space in between. There was a dark ocean that washed into the shores of nothingness. In another depiction, it all started with the enunciation of a sacred sound, Om, or Om. The ancient Hindu scriptures state that the ultimate reality, Brahma, has three main functions. These three characteristics are inhibited by the trinity of gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. That is why we can see images where the heads of the trinity are merged together into a single body, the Trimurti. In the Trimurti, Brahma is the creator of everything, Vishnu is the preserver of nature, Shiva is the ultimate destroyer who brings about change whenever it becomes necessary. So guys, that was a bit of a background on, there's so much else to talk about, but that was just like a quick background on the mythology and the religion and its origins. It's really interesting, at least for myself, to see the transition it's made, and we can even delve into more aspects of how Hinduism predicted a lot of what was happening right now, and it is actually happening, and they predicted this years ago, 5,000, 10,000 years ago. So guys, thank you so much for listening and watching and supporting me. Please do subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Facebook. I'm everywhere really. So please give us a like, give us a share, and there's going to be lots more content coming. I'm really excited for more VR based content. So